In this lesson, we're looking at speed, distance, and time, and the relationship between those variables, and how we can convert between speed, distance, and time. So if you think about speed and some of the measurements for speed, some of the first things we think of are going to be when we're driving a car, so miles per hour. We could also, don't see it so much in England, but in America, they use kilometers per hour to measure their speed of their car. We also have things, if we measure a shorter period of time or shorter distance, might be meters per second. Okay, when we think about distance, maybe have a think of some of the units you might use. So we can see some in here. We've got meters, kilometers. Okay, we've got miles as well. Okay, we could do things like centimeters if we really wanted to. Okay, if we were measuring maybe a small insect, might measure distance in centimeters. And lastly, we've got time. Measures of time, we can see here hours and seconds. Okay, we've also got minutes. It doesn't just have to be periods within the day. We could say days. Yeah, if we're traveling a very long distance, we could look at how many days it takes rather than splitting it into hours, minutes, or seconds. Okay, so look at these relationships and these units. If we look at one in particular, speed, we can see it's consisting of two different types of unit. We said it when we mentioned distance and when we mentioned time. So distance we said was miles, kilometers, meters. Yeah. And the time, we had hours, seconds, and we can have other units of time in there as well. So speed uses both of those. So if we put speed in the bottom left of this triangle here, so S for speed, okay, we're thinking speed is miles per hour, kilometers per hour, meters per second. Okay, so what that really means is miles divided by hours. So actually miles is our measurement of distance. So at the top of our triangle, we're going to put our D for distance. And then the hours, so miles per hour, miles divided by hour. Our time unit, is going to go on the bottom here along with time. And we can use this triangle to help us convert between speed, distance, and time. So for example, if we're looking at what speed is in terms of distance and time, we're using something called the cover-up method here. So we've got this triangle, and if we're looking for speed, we're just going to put our finger on speed, and it shows us this distance over time. So distance over time. Okay, now we can work out the same equation using the same three variables, but this time we could do it with distance as our what we're trying to make. So distance is speed multiplied by time, and all we're doing is covering up distance. So speed times by time. Okay, and lastly then, you'll probably be able to do this by now. You've got the idea. So time equals, cover up time, it's distance over speed. Yeah, so we're just using those three equations. If we forget the relationship between these, just think about the units that we use. We know about units for speed. Yeah, it's miles per hour. So the miles is going to be on the top. Per hour, the hour is going to be on the bottom. So distance over time. And we can fill in that triangle and use it from there. Okay, now if we move down a little bit, I've said here, if we travel at 60 miles per hour, that means we've traveled 60 miles in a time of 1 hour. So miles, obviously 60 miles is our distance. 1 hour is the time that it's taken. Okay, and we know 60 miles per hour is an average speed. So I've said here, how fast are we traveling if we travel 60 miles in 2 hours? So again, we need to think about miles. That's a distance. Okay, and 2 hours is a time. And the question is asking us how fast. So fast means what is our speed? Okay, so we want to find out the speed in terms of distance and time. So cover up your speed. We can say speed equals distance, so 60 miles, divided by time, which is 2 hours, so 60 over 2. Now you probably do this in your head. Okay, 60 divided by 2. If you want to think about just the 6 divided by 2, That should give us 3. Then we can put that a 0 back in there. Okay, and think about our units now for speed. This is the important part. So we're not going to go switching up any units. We don't need to change 2 hours into minutes or into seconds or anything like that. Okay, so it's simply 30 miles per, and our time was in hours. So use those same units that were used in the original question. Now I've got the same triangle at the top here, our speed, distance and time. Remembering that speed, if you want to find that, we're going to cover up speed, distance over time. To find distance, we cover up distance, speed times time. And to find time, we cover up time, so distance divided by speed. Okay, I've got 4 questions here for you. So what I want you to do, I want you to pause the video here, try those questions, and we can regroup in a second, and you can check if you've got your answers correct. I'll go through those in good detail. So if we look at question 1, so I travelled 20 miles in 4 hours, what was my speed? So clearly we're looking for a speed, so speed equals, okay, there's no harm in labelling all of these. Yeah, it clearly says speed there, so we don't need to label that. Miles we know is a distance, and so 4 hours is our time. So speed, if we're not sure, cover it up. Distance 20 miles over, remember this just means divide. Time, which is 4 hours. So again, if you can do it in your head, brilliant. Okay, let's see if we can do it without a calculator, this one. So how many 4s go into 20? Okay, so 4s into 2, there's 0. 4s into 20, we should get exactly 5. So our answer there is 5. Okay, and remember the units, so the distance was miles. Okay, and the time was hours. So we can put mph, or if we want to write it in full, we can write miles per hour. Okay, question 2 then. I travelled at 6 kilometres per hour for a distance of 1 kilometre. So this is our speed. Okay, distance. I know it says it in the question, but we can still write it underneath. How long did the journey take? So this is looking for a time. So t, let's cover up the t, is distance divided by speed. So distance was 1 kilometre. Okay, divided by speed. Okay. Now this is where we need to be careful about our units. Okay, so 1/6. Okay, that is 1/6 of what? So our speed was kilometers per hour. Our distance was kilometers. So if we want to make kilometers per hour, this means we've got 1 kilometer. Okay, and so our time units must be in hours. So 1/6 of an hour. Now an hour is 60 minutes. So if we're dividing that by 6, that would give us 10 minutes. Okay, question 3. A sprinter ran 100 meters in 12.5 seconds. What was their average speed? So again, 100 meters is our distance. Okay, 12.5 seconds is our time. Okay, so what was their average speed? So speed equals, cover speed, distance 100 divided by time, 12.5. Okay, so if we put that into our calculator, 100 divided by 12.5 gives us 8. Again, we've got to think about our units. So distance is meters, time is seconds, so it's meters per second. Okay, and our final question then, question 4. I went hiking, travelling at an average speed of 3 miles per hour for 5 hours. How far did I travel? So again, this is speed as it tells us. Okay, and 5 hours would be a time. Okay, so we're looking for how far. Okay, a distance. Distance equals, so cover up distance. Okay, we've got speed multiplied by time. So speed is 3 multiplied by 5. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, so our distance would be our speed miles per hour. Our time is hours, so our distance must be in miles. So we get 15 miles.